That's how he tells us apart.
What a surprise.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is March 23rd workshop, Board of Finance workshop. So start with registrars.
Our narrative doesn't change all that much year to year. We were fully loaded until like within the last 6 weeks, we fell apart because I lost both an assistant and a deputy.
Oh, gee.
Oh, yeah.
But at least I do have another deputy still, her husband.
I was thinking he was one that stepped away. Okay.
Now, so it's the same story as every year. I mean, the Secretary of State keeps asking us to do more and we have to. Last week, we were at the high school doing our required voter registration for 2 students.
Really?
One of them asked really good questions, so no sarcasm here. I know I'm good at sarcasm. She was asking questions about the primary and if she registered with a party and
Good.
it was very encouraging
Okay.
until there was no more kids coming to register.
So,
Can I just clarify? I noticed, I think, a typo in the document. There's no intent to eliminate one of the assistants. We're still going to have 2, 2, and 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a
Right.
typo in there. Somehow I left a 1 in there.
I was wondering how
Should
that
be two-
added up to.
Yeah, right. It's this new math we're working out, you know.
Not specialist.
Yeah, right. They'll bring it in here first.
Yeah, I think the primary thing, we're asking for additional funding for new computers. Computers we have are archaic.
And that was actually suggested to us by IT. And he was the one that said, you desperately need a new laptop. And I'm not sure which order, but you desperately need a new desktop also. So we're doing those 2 this year, and then we'll do the other desktop next year.
what do you need laptops for?
When we do election day registration.
Oh, that's right.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask the opposite question. Why are you still buying desktops?
Yeah.
It depends on the location. We're moving most of the department heads to laptop scenario, docking station, that sort of thing. But other locations will stay with.
Yeah, I don't know, because we have a direct line to the state system that we do all our processing on. And I'm not an IT person at all.
No, it's just that
And I
laptops.
don't know if a laptop would work.
It would.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Under other purchase services, is that software?
5590 line.
Those are your poll workers.
Poll workers, yeah.
Oh, that's our staffing for our elections.
Okay.
So the part-time and seasonal, so all your employees in the office are on the 5120 line.
Yes, we are, because our deputies only work a couple hours a week.
Normally.
Nor under, unless around elections where they're,
What do your part-time workers earn?
they were raised last year to 1660 an hour.
So along with everybody else, will they get another?
It jumped up as well. The other interesting thing to note here is I have included funding in the that line for 2 things related to the registrars themselves, not only their, if you will, annual jump in the, I'll refer to it as a stipend that they receive for their work, but also adding an allocation to pay them $300 a day for actual elections.
And this is
And-
following what a lot of towns are doing. Registrar of Voters has a closed group on Facebook. And it's, for the last 6 months, it's been popping up over and over from town after town, that a lot of registrars now are getting their annual stipend, but just to kind of say, gee, we're sorry you have to work such a long day. Throw a
So for
little
those
cash at
election
it.
days, primaries, referendums, You
Right.
get an additional $300
Yeah.
a day.
Yep.
You know,
And that-
5 in the morning till at least 9 at night.
And that helps,
I've been
it
out.
helps respond when there are multiples of those, which we know. Of course, it won't happen ever again, but we know that sometimes budget referenda can go multiple times. Primaries might show up. Hey, no, don't even talk about it. It's never gonna happen again. We're gonna figure it out. It's gonna be great.
But yeah, I mean, this year minimum, we'll have 3 because you got the primary, you got referendum, and then the election.
Correct.
And I don't know if this is wood, but we haven't been picked for an audit lately.
Yeah, that happens.
And we haven't had a recount lately.
So what is this, your stipend? No.
Do you even know? It's.
Yeah, I mean, I do
8,000 and
everything in
change for each of them.
Yeah, I do.
8,000 and change for each of them.
I do so much in Excel, I write it down and I forget it.
I don't remember the specific number. I don't know that we have it in front of us.
All right.
And together, they're 18,670.
Okay.
So it's maybe closer to 9 and change by now.
All right.
What is the line item 5430, building and equipment maintenance and repair?
That's our tabulators.
Oh,
And we increase the amount on that because the vendor is increasing their charge. In fact,
Do you have that insurance that goes with that? There used to be an insurance that kind of limited your risk.
well, I mean, they do the annual maintenance. If it's, let's face it, those machines are old. And it seems at least every other year, there's some little battery in there that needs replacing.
Right.
Within the last 2 years, the backup batteries that we use have both gone south. So I've made the 2 trips each time to batteries plus bulbs.
So do you have to purchase that? Huh, because when I left, there was an insurance policy that was quite worth it, but they
Never
don't
heard of
offer
it.
that anymore.
Never heard of it. But
Do you know who arranged that? Was that through the registrar's office or was that through?
I did, but it was through LHS. I can't remember. Yeah, what's the guy's name? And it doesn't matter.
the cute one,
Yeah.
that likes dolls. Well, not dolls. I should say figurines.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Alana knew exactly who I meant.
I did. Who's my buddy? Okay, are there any questions?
Wow, Ted, you're kind of quiet. Uncharacteristic.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
Yeah, saving it.
Anyone else, any questions? Thank
I'm
you very
good.
much.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
This was,
That's for whoever.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We did have next human services. We're gonna reschedule Lauren until Saturday morning. Had something that came up.
So Joanne, you're up.
You're up.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, thank you.
Good. Tell me what.
76.
All right, well, here we are again. This year's probably a little more promising than last year in regards to activity. Our doors were locked. We were open, but our doors were locked. And we provided limited services during that time. In June of 2021, we opened up our doors, unlocked our doors, I should say. And folks have been coming in for activities. We did it in our opening process was done in collaboration with the Chatham Health District. There was the senior centers in Chatham Health directors got together and established protocols and whatnot to start that. In August, we had started the meal program back in 2 days a week, which is what it was before COVID. And during COVID, we were doing frozen grab and go meals, thank you. And that was pretty successful until the restaurant started opening up and people were going for takeout for a little variety and whatnot. So the congregate meals started probably with 6 people in attendance, and I would say it's up to about 15 at this point. So it's, you know, it's growing slowly. We're looking to expand that up to the full 5 days that it originally was years ago. I don't know how long it was at this point. So that's quite positive. During the initial shutdown, what we learned is we have quite a few older adults who are computer savvy, and so they hopped right online, got involved in our virtual programs and whatnot. And then we have another group that was interested but not so savvy, and so we educated them to that. And now what we have found is we've continued the hybrid part of this, because we have people that would be homebound without activity to do if they didn't have access to like our bingo program. I have a 95-year-old who is at home, can't walk very well, and she loves the activity. And this has brought her into the senior center because we have a big screen TV, and she's on Zoom, and people can interact with her. And you know, so it's a win-win situation all the way around. We're challenged with all the changes of going back and forth and anticipating that, you know, there's another variant. We need to keep people safe and whatnot. And so we still aren't up to par. Things like everything is done in smaller groups or bigger tables. You know, we play cards, we play dominoes, we do quilting. We do yoga. Actually, we do yoga down here because there's a better space at the town hall. And the things that, and we do Tai Chi, and Tai Chi is done via Zoom. We have, my stream of thought just went away, I'm sorry. So the level of activity is kind of neat. And I see that the virtual piece I see it as a inclusion of helping people decrease that social isolation, because they are able to interact with people. Never in a million years would I have thought that relationships would be developed online like that, but certainly they have. One of the other things, we put out an anthology. We have a writers group. We have 2 writers groups, and they put together a book, and the people on those 2 different groups didn't know each other when they started. And they know each other very well at this point, and really have created quite a bond. So it's been terrific to see as well. So the other thing that we just are in the process, we're doing it right now, is that was reestablished as the Aarp free tax service to residents. Pre-COVID, they did about 60 people during the tax season, and this year they'll be over 100. Last year there probably was 45 or 50 because they had to limit how they weren't meeting with people face to face, and they had to go out and get the taxpayers paperwork and whatnot, and then call them back after they had done the application. So one of the reasons why they're able to do more is they had 5 or 6 volunteers, trained volunteers. Last year at the end of the season, we had 4 people, and one of those people retired from, and he happened to be an East Hampton resident, from being a tax preparer. And so what happens with ARP, because they were shorthanded, was that if you don't have a representation from East Hampton, then that service may go away. But what they allow you to do is go to other senior centers. So then they get bogged down at the other senior centers because there's this influx, and so it bounces around. But I counted the appointments today, and I was quite pleased with that. So People missed it when we said, March 20th, it stopped in 2020. That was it. There wasn't any, what am I going to do? This is something that they have been utilizing for many, many years. So I'm happy to have that back in place. So, the things that we have done, I mentioned the virtual planning, working with CRT to transition back into the hot cafe meals. We also completed a senior center participant handbook, and we started a program actually via referral through social services. No, that's not true. It was before that, but we've ended with the social services is a volunteer shopping program. And that was because people were told to stay home and not go out. And so initially we had the CERT team that helped be the shoppers and volunteer in that way. And again, as people were able to move about more, the service wasn't as much in demand, but we did get this referral from social services, somebody that can't drive and can't get out. And so we provide that service to him, and it's open to other people if the need should arise. I see it as a valuable service that can continue, and we look for volunteers that would be able to be willing to do that shopping for them. Just on a side note, 6 months ago, this individual shopping came to about $50 or $60. Today it was $150. And so, the costs are just going up and up and up, and that's going to be an issue for people as we go along, because
It's out of control.
yeah. So that's just the scope. The other thing that we did this year is applied for a Handicapped Bus through 5310 DOT grant. We got it. The very unusual thing is that it's funded 100% by the state. And
Good job.
so we're happy with that. Yeah. So we're in the process. I picked out the colors and, all those important things that we need to do.
Does someone need to be specially licensed to
It's a-
drive that?
It's a public service license.
Okay.
We've gone back and forth with CDL.
Yeah.
We did have a bus that was given to us because a company wasn't using it anymore, and it was a CDL. And so the person that I had hired had actually had the CDL. It just was fortunate, but it's difficult to hire part-time people at any time. And now it's even more difficult. So anyway, looking ahead, I want to keep it up. The disadvantage of the public service licenses is we have to keep the bus, it's by weight, but to 12 people. Because what I was going to do was we had the opportunity to add a jump seat into where the wheelchair slots are, because if you don't have a wheelchair person, you can do that. And the guy said, it's fine, but then you bump it up to a CDL. And so I didn't want to do
jump
that. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. So I'm, looking forward to that. In regards to the budget, with the part-time salaries, I know Dave has talked about the increase for the wage adjustment with the Department of Labor, but also the driver who I thought I had hired is not hired now, because he got another position, unfortunately. But he, I was going to start him at 15 hours a week to get it started now, and then come July to increase him to 19 and a half, because I see transportation as a really important program that will develop as our older adults are in need of, as they're not driving anymore, they need to get to a doctor. Matt Transit doesn't necessarily have the flexibility that some people need. Like, you can't go out of Hartford County. I mean, you can't go out of Middlesex County. And so Marlboro is in Hartford County. And so you would think it'd be easy to get over, to the healthcare facilities there, and it's not. So I'm looking forward to developing that program, and hopefully people will put their trust in it because that's the other issue with the Matt Transit. It's not always on time, or you're going to a doctor, and excuse me, and then you have to wait for the ride back, and sometimes that can be a significant amount of time. So that's where we are right now with
So
our-
what is the property and equipment line, 5744? There was nothing there previous year.
that's,
That should be a computer.
Computer.
yeah,
Should be reading as a computer line.
no, I saw that today too.
Computer,
Yeah, it's a, yeah.
so there was no computer there before, or what?
No, it just, so we don't, it's a replacement. And so that number, that figure for computers kind of bounces around. If we don't have one in that particular budget year for a division, we'll put 0 in there, but somebody else will have it that year.
All right. Any questions?
I have one, 5642, books and periodicals. This is a new line item for $500. I thought I'd ask, since you're situated right next to the library, why do you have a new line item for books and periodicals?
I'm gonna, I'm not sure that it's a new line item, because that's where my newspaper goes, that's where I bill up for the newspaper, and it costs $400 a year. So, so I don't know why it isn't showing up unless it was in a different location before.
That's the case.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your time. I
Thank you.
appreciate you listening to what's going on at the senior center. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to talk about transportation?
oh, I would try to skip out and it doesn't.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Let's see. So
Yeah, you got a couple more.
I talked about Matt Transit, and they provide fixed route system transportation, and as when the transit systems do that, then they also provide a paratransit, which is transportation for people who are disabled. It could be elderly with disabilities, anybody with a disability. And then they also provide a dial-a-ride service, and the dial-a-ride service is for people, older adults, specifically to get around town, to get to their doctor's appointments and whatnot. So it used to be a free service. It costs $3.50 per ride, so round trip is $7 a day. When people come to a senior center for a free meal, or they're asked for a $3 donation, they're paying $7 in transportation to get there for this $3 meal. It is no longer affordable for them. We are fortunate to have the Lions Club that supports an adopt a senior rider program that helps augment that for people that can't afford the tickets. So.
Questions on that page?
Your name is listed under community services, but that's senior housing for Bellwood and Chatham.
Oh.
That's where you used to be.
They don't need me.
So are we finished with you?
I think you are.
Thank you.
Yep.
Unless you want to hang around and support Bob.
I will do that.
Oh, thank you.
On your own. Great up there.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm from the Commission on Aging. And I want to start off by apologizing to Jeff, because we just whipped around. Because we made a couple of changes via a phone meeting on the budget, and I'm gonna practice my teaching days, take one, pass the rest back. Yeah, the reason is we moved some money because for a couple of things. First of all, to back up just a bit before we dive into that, our big project this year was the senior survey. I'm sure you were all aware of it, and I hope that those of you that qualified had a chance to fill it out either online via SurveyMonkey or on paper, which we then transferred to SurveyMonkey. So we did very well. We had over 500 entries, responses, and we got some really good information. We did this about 5 years ago, if you may remember, and we got way more sophisticated this time by using SurveyMonkey, which we paid for. We used their advanced services for processing the data, and then we put that together in a pretty good PowerPoint presentation, which we gave to the town council, and we've been starting to make the rounds to present it to various organizations in town. On Monday was our first one with the Housing Authority, and as we speak, we are doing a presentation for the Lions Club at the VFW. We'll be doing a presentation to the Senior Center on April 8th. Oh boy, I was off by a week. April 8th. And I'm sure there'll be more. The idea is to get as much information out as possible. We're in the probably the more exciting part of the whole thing. Instead of just saying, please fill out the survey, we're at the part now where we've formed 3 subcommittees, which is the way the survey was broken out into transportation, housing, and health and wellness. So we have 2 people from commission on each committee, and at the moment we have 2 town council members, one on housing and one on health and wellness, and we're looking for the 3rd volunteer for transportation. I'm sure we'll get one. They just got the notice a couple of weeks ago, so we're not worried about that. The plan is to follow, if you're in education or in business, you're maybe familiar with the Xerox system, where it was to take a look at the desired state. What do we want the transportation system in East Hampton to look like for seniors? What does it look like now? And how are we going to get from what it looks like now to what we want it to look like in 5 years, 10 years, whatever? So that's what we're doing for each of the 3 areas. So we've just started. Every committee except transportation has met once. Transportation is meeting on Monday for the first time. So we'll get going on that. Those are going to be long-term committees. All the meetings are warned, so they'll be online and available on Zoom. So that's going to be a lot more work and more things than we planned on when we thought about this. The other item that kind of moved some money around into supplies and materials, we had last year we had a purchase, or 2 years ago now, I guess, we had a purchase of Commission on Aging tote bags, which we gave out at various things at the Lions Health and Wellness Fair, and for various functions that the Commission on Aging or the Senior Center did. It was a good way to put a lot of information in one bag to hand out at various functions, and worked pretty well. But we're down to our last 6 or 8, and I went to look for one the other day, and I couldn't even find one in my house, so I don't know where it went, but it's not there. So that's the biggest chunk. Other than that, everything is pretty much the same as it's been past years. But we really do need that's a valuable asset for us to keep people interested. It's amazing how many of those bags you see around, especially in the days of no grocery store bags anymore. What else will be meeting? We'll hopefully be able to, what we've been doing is developing a list of short-term and long-term goals for each of those 3 subcommittees. So for example, one of the big commitments from one of the big comments on the survey was that the walk lights aren't long enough for people crossing the street. And if you've tried to do that, you know that's true. If you watch somebody up here by the bank try to cross the street, they usually get about 4 steps out and the light starts to turn and they get that deer in the headlights look like, what am I going to do now? Where do I go? So, and it's my understanding, that's a relatively easy fix. You just open the big box by the side of the road and you change the timer, and boom, there you go. So that's a relatively easy, short, cheap fix. Housing is a lot more complicated. We are in desperate need of more senior housing to meet the needs of the senior community. And that's a lot more complicated. So that's going to be years, and we know that. But that's where we're going. That's a long-term piece. Health and wellness will probably go on and on and on as we're looking for more exercise groups. The senior center does a great job with yoga and Tai Chi, and there have been other programs that sort of faded away as COVID took over the world. So hopefully that some of those will get back up and going as time goes on. Just to refresh your memories, we meet once a month. Second Thursday of each month, and the other committees, the subcommittees have been meeting when they schedule them. That's entirely up to them. Those are all available on Zoom in addition to showing up at wherever they're going to be. I think that's enough out of me.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, questions.
Yes, oh, I know. I just want to get the thank you in.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Anybody have questions?
Yes, the 2 increases over the budget as presented by the town manager were the postage, which went from $100 to $1,250. What do you plan on using those funds for the postage?
Okay, that. So well, is that in the wrong? Hang on.
It's your communications line.
Yeah, it should be in supplies. It should be in in newspapers and advertising is where we spent it. We did a big ad, a full page ad with the survey in River East and did some everything. They were really good to us. They gave us if you read the articles, that was all free stuff, just newsy. But we did pay for the full page ad.
What are you looking to do this next year, though, Bob?
For this coming year, we expect that we're going to be looking for more opinions as we get into the nuts and bolts of transportation, housing, and health and wellness. And so some of that's going to go out in the form of much shorter, smaller surveys and whatever we can't get for free from the River East, we'll have to pay for it. So far they've been really good to us, but I don't know if that's going to continue forever. We also did a bunch of stuff that we'll probably wind up doing again. We had drop-off boxes stationed around town to drop off surveys, and we'll do some of that kind of stuff again. Only this time I won't have my picture on it, but we did that. So a lot of the marketing costs, getting out there and letting people know. I think the biggest part of this is going to be just getting around to all of the groups in town, the fraternal organizations and the veterans organizations.
So
and
all
churches.
that is going to come out of the 1,200
Yeah, we're going to wind up spending some money.
postage line?
Well, no, that should be up with, it should be, should have been split better with newspapers and postage. I'm sorry, that's my fault. That should have been split better than that.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah.
Bob?
So you brought up, you opened up about talking about expanding housing long-term and so forth. So
Right.
Can you expand a little bit on what the strategy is and on how to tackle that issue? And
Sure. well, as I'm sure you all know, we have two senior housing sections in town. The biggest problem always is land, is their land. Our representative from the town council, Kevin Reich, has mentioned that there is a piece of land that could be available.
Mhm.
I guess the owner was approached and didn't want to sell at that time. However, there is the possibility that we could talk about having first right of refusal if and when the owner decides to sell. But that's what we're
Is
looking
that
at, and
an
we're not.
existing building or?
I'm sorry?
Is it an existing building or
No,
land?
no,
Just to-
it's land.
So what would then be, how would we build the building, I guess? Or
Oh,
the
okay.
structure?
Well, there's a variety of buildings. We could do individual houses, we could do ranches, we could do, if you've been to Masonic Care in Wallingford and taken a drive through there, you can get a pretty good idea of what they had. They
No,
have.
I know, but how would we pursue the funding for it?
I see. Well, I think we've got to look at what's available through the state and through the feds. That's a big chunk of change, at least to get started, or to combine with somebody else. I mean, I think if Masonic Care came to town and said, gee, we'd like to do something there, I don't think we'd be in a hurry to say no. But that depends, again, I know my mother, who's 89, had looked at Masonic Care, and as much as she loves it, it's just not in her budget.
Hmm.
So that there may be other less expensive ways, or ways to have supplemental rents available. There's a ton of stuff. And a lot of this, frankly, at this point in time, we don't know. We're going to have to just see what's available. I know that there's some interest, and I think the town is floating an RFP to do something with the brick buildings down in the village. And that's.
I know what you mean.
That's to me, a guy who's lived in New England and lived in Willimantic, who had huge buildings and has been to Boston and Baltimore and other places where they've done some pretty remarkable things with those buildings, a mix of commercial and real estate, residential. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of things that are in the way. Water is always an issue in this town, but there's nothing that's insurmountable. It's time and money, and more money. But we're starting, and that's what we need to do. If we don't ask the questions and look around, we're not going to.
Because right now, we're not getting any money from the state or the feds for the two properties we have, correct?
Oh, no, that's not true. I don't believe we are getting federal. We just got a big. There's been several grants for this is a little off my bailiwick here.
Okay,
But
So for construction type activities
Yeah.
at the Housing Authority, much of that is done with grant work. We have a $1.2 million grant that is just underway now for significant work at the Housing Authority properties.
okay. So I thought I saw on one of the lines that we're not getting anything in one of the narratives. I apologize.
So they have a variety of programs on how rents are paid over there and that sort of thing. But the Housing Authority is a little bit separate, so we don't see all of those details.
Correct. Shut up.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Something I'm interested in.
Well, thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
Once again.
Thank you. Shortly, one of the big things we're going to be working on as part of this is lunch. So soon, we hope soon, we're going to have back to the good old days functioning lunch program, maybe even better. So we'll that was the big thing. People like to come in the morning, hang out, play cards, do a puzzle, do Tai Chi, whatever they're going to do, and then stay for lunch. And then do something in the afternoon. That it would be nice to get back into that rhythm. And I think we're slowly getting there. So when we do, we'll make sure to let everybody know, and you can all stop by for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would it be okay if I have Donna Roberts on the line, and I know she has a presentation, would it be okay
yeah.
to get her up here and go through her narrative?
Sure.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is Middle Haddam Library, so it's given down to the end.
Good evening.
Evening, Donna. Welcome.
We're all set with video and audio.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. I want to start by just saying thank you on behalf of the Middle Haddam Public Library for my ability to speak tonight on behalf. My name is Donna Roberts. I am the president of the board of directors of the library. In February, our board requested financial support from the town in the amount of $15,000 to support our operating expenses for the year 2022, 2023. In 2021, the library received $11,185 in donations and matching corporate gifts. This money goes to pay our operating expenses, such as salaries, utilities, maintenance, and insurance. Also in 2021, we updated and redesigned our website with the help of a member of the East Hampton IT department. We continued to publicize through social media and advertise in our newly created Facebook page and Instagram page. I am currently working with the Department of Transportation to have directional signs mounted in several locations to let people know that there's an historic library in our town. We've made many technology upgrades, as I said, to our computer and our Wi-Fi in our building. We've installed blackout shades, a projection screen for presentations. And last but not least, we cataloged our entire inventory of books through an app called, an online app called Library Thing. The handout that Jeff was nice enough to copy for me and give to you, that's entitled the Programs Committee Annual Report. That's the total number of patrons that have visited the library between April of 21 and the end of the year was over 1,000. That's a big increase for us through our 4 days a week. Obviously, I just said the foot traffic and the book circulation continues to grow as well. So this year we are on track now to have at least 150% of last year's totals. And I'll give you a couple of reasons for that. The energy, the increases are due to a very dedicated board of directors. There are 7 of us on the board of directors of the library, and we have 2 staff members that handled the day-to-day activities. Our newly hired programs director is responsible for facilitating our programs and community events. Some of which, I don't know if you all know, are monthly art exhibits. We have book clubs, various topical programs, history walks, poetry reading nights, and yoga. And that's just to name a few. Our goal as a second library in town has always been to be a unique and interesting place and provide programs for you, for us, the East Hampton community. And that's where you come in, because we rely on your continued financial support. And it's critical to us to be a vibrant resource in the community. I gave you 2 little visuals of inside the library that were the handouts that Jeff gave you as well, because I don't think that Mr. Bennington, I'm not sure, Mr. Bonacorso, I know we haven't met,
No.
Mr. Brown, Ms. Cunningham, Ms. McLennan, and Mr. Turner. I don't know if you've ever been in our little second library in town, but I encourage you, come down to see what you're supporting. You would be pleased you would be thrilled to see what has been done through COVID, through our renovations. And like I said, we need you to be a resource and to help us continue to be an asset. Any questions about what I've said, what I've given you for facts or anything?
Anybody?
I'm good.
I'll stand by.
You're asking for an additional $5,000 this year. What do you intend to use that money for?
We intend to use that money for continued programming. I know you and I have not met and we haven't talked, but our library did a physical survey of what the community would like from us as a smaller library and specifically what programs they would like. And when the survey came back, it told us that it would like to have, like I said, groups of 25 to 40 as opposed to larger groups in the library. So we intend to use that towards people coming in, doing talks, doing historical walks, and I just lost my train of thought, so I apologize. But just to bring in more people to the library.
They've hired Donna, am I correct? You've hired a new program director who's part-time.
We have.
And she's really been responsible for the programs, new programs, and a lot of energy.
We have, and yes, we are now running 4 to 5 programs a month, which was never done before. The library was run by a board of directors with a librarian and a clerk position that was eliminated, but there was never anything to say, what are we focused for? What are our goals in 5 years? Libraries are changing. We are media centers now. We are small groups now. This is even before COVID. So doing this survey helped us focus on what our purpose is, one, in town, and how can we utilize this building to the best of our ability and meeting our operating costs, what you give us, what patrons give us. We are still, operating in a deficit. So the board has done, like I said, a great job in doing that and said, this is what people have asked for. Now we are charging for programs. We are bringing in people that are doing these walks, and we're getting a publicized base, and then now we're getting donors, and that's what it's all about.
So Donna, you want to tell about the gentleman in town, an attorney who was an expert in advising 501c3s?
Yes, we have a patron that approached us, and he is a financial advisor, but he is also an educational coach for 501c corporations. And he came to us about 2 months ago and said, can I come and use your library as a guinea pig in the board? And we said, sure. And he explained to us that he's an educational coach. And what he does is he takes all the ideas that we have and we bring up under new business in our board meetings once a month. And then he prioritizes them and funnels them down to say, what makes sense for you and what doesn't. We've had all these discussions and they go round and round, as all boards do. But this gentleman, we just met with him last weekend for 5 hours on a weekend. Our board dedicated their time. He is just getting us in saying, where are you going to be and what is your priority in 5 years and what's the public and the community going to want? So we're thrilled to work with him. This is, as I said, we're guinea pigs to him, and it's there's no cost to us, but we're learning about, what's our purpose, and we're learning a lot of things through that.
Good. There any questions for Donna?
No,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and your consideration. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to see you all.
Bye. Um, Waiting. We have someone waiting. Arts and culture. Good. Excellent. Please. Couldn't see you behind.
I'd just like to comment that I've been going to yoga at the Middletown Library for a while now. It's a great space to have yoga. The class is a bit more gentle for 55 and older. And they have been coming up with it. It's really nice to see that happening.
It's a lovely
Comment. So I'm Melissa Pianco with the Arts and Culture Commission, and we also have Rebecca Canal over there in the corner providing moral support. She's one of our newer members, and she is our secretary, and we're really lucky to have her. So we're thrilled. I have my little write-up here that gives our mission statement. Would you like me to read that, or?
No, I think we all
Okay.
read it. Want to give us an overview or?
Sure. We're a small dedicated group. Our biggest challenge is to try to draw in people to participate on the board. We have 6 members, 5 really active members mostly. And we're supposed to have 9, and we just are really challenged to get people to volunteer their time on even just something as fun as this board can be. So that's something that we would like to try to work on a little bit more. We put the word out, but it's hard to get people to volunteer their time. We're busy. So the other thing I'd like to point out is that our budget is spent on the second half of the budget year. Our money is not spent in the beginning of the year. It's really spent toward the end of the season because most of the initiatives that we support happen in the spring. So when you look at our budget, it doesn't look like we spent any money, but we will. We will be spending money hard and fast in the next few months. So we have some successes for 2021. We distributed 4 mini grants last year because of COVID. We couldn't do some of the things that we wanted to do because things were canceled. So we had extra money and we put it into the mini grants, and we gave out 4 $500 grants. We gave a grant to a group of middle school art teachers who were doing an independent art installation with middle school students. So they're going to be working on this throughout the year, and they'll be exhibiting it for the community to see. They're still in the process of working on this installation, and it's something that these middle school kids can do independently. During the COVID year, they were able to work on this independently instead of together because they had to keep separate for COVID reasons. And that was a great way to reach that age group of kids because sometimes it's hard to find activities for that age group, apparently, according to this group of teachers that we gave the grant to. The other grant we gave was a woman who has a preschool music and movement class that she's starting. She hasn't started it yet. She's going to be starting it over at the Goff House Museum where the dance studio is in the evenings. And this is a music and movement class for little children. So that's another age group that's kind of cool to reach out to in the community. She teaches them songs and dance and simple instruments. The Goff House Concert Series added an extra concert last year. So they had 6 concerts instead of 5, and our grant helped to fund that extra concert. And then Epic Arts had stopped offering Brookside Nights, which was for ages grades 6 through 12. And it was a night out, a dance night or whatever kind of activity that they planned for this age group. And so a grant from us helped them to start up that initiative again. So by offering these 4 grants, we really put money right back into the community to serve mostly children, but the Goff House Concerts reaches out to a lot of families and senior citizens. Sorry. We distributed two $250 grants to juniors and seniors in high school last year for their capstone project. The note I have says 200, but it was really $250. So we had a decent selection of kids that came. In past years, we hadn't had any. And we did have a nice reaction from these kids. To get high schoolers to apply sometimes is a challenge to get the word out to them. So we did give 250 grants to 2 students for their capstone project. Unfortunately, this year, we didn't get any. So you never really know from year to year what kind of response you're going to get. So this year, we're going to have to take that capstone money and maybe use it for something else. We already put a little bit of money into the Belltown Drama Club playbill for their upcoming performance. And that's something that we hope that we can do a little bit more of if we do have extra funds. Last year, we would have put some money into purchasing a piece of artwork at the East Hampton Art Association art show, but they didn't have it because of COVID. So that's why we had extra money to use for the grants. Currently, we have art that we've purchased that is in the Middle Haddam Library, the high school, Center School, East Hampton Youth and Family Services, and the Senior Center. So these are pieces of art that either feature an East Hampton scene or were created by an East Hampton artist. And it helps people to see what people are creating and to have this art to enjoy in public spaces.
The
And
last
this-
time I noticed, Jeff needs something for his wall.
Well, I think the town hall really does need more artwork. I think we talked about this last year too. We have a gallery here that features local artists out by the town manager's office. And that's a great example. It's not our gallery, but that's a great example of enjoying art that people make. So let's see, where am I here? So another thing that we didn't get to do last year was the East Hampton All District Art Show, which usually happens in March. And I just found out this morning that they are going to have it this year. So we will be able to support that. What we do is we go to the art show and we enjoy the art, and then we select one piece of artwork from each school, and we present the student that created the art with a bell that's made here in East Hampton from Bevan Bells. And then we give them a little certificate, and then we take that piece of art and we put it here and we exhibit it for a month, usually in June. So they get their own show, and then they get that little bell to remember later on in life. We also have a website that we maintain. That's about $192 a year. It went up a little bit this year. And we have social media. We have a Facebook page that's really doing well. We have about 800 people that we reach, and more people tune into it. We basically just share other people's events as much as possible. So whenever some group is having an event, we just share it and share it and share it. We put our own initiatives on there to let people know that the grants are available. And we just try our best to support other groups that are doing all the things that are happening in town. So last year we couldn't do any theater group playbill advertising because there weren't any performances. So that's something, like I said, that we're hoping to do again, or try to do this year. I just requested a check this week, actually, for this Belltown Drama Club performance of Grease, which is coming up in April. So our plan for the coming year is to just kind of continue on with what we've already been doing. We're going to fund that art purchase award if the art exhibit occurs, if the East Hampton Art Association has their show. We're going to fund that student art award program. We are going to offer 2 grant opportunities. The grant proposals are flying in. I think we have 4. That's another thing. It's hard to get people to apply for money. You wouldn't think that it would be, but it is. So we're hoping more people will apply for that. Capstone kids did not apply for any capstone grants this year. So we're going to try to use that money back into the community in another way. If at the end of the budget season we have money left over, we try to find an organization in town that is doing some program that might need funding. Sometimes Epic Arts needs a little extra money for one of their performances, or We just try to find some way to use that money that can be used by somebody in the community. We're going to continue to fund our Facebook page, and we're going to continue, our webpage, and we're going to continue to maintain our Facebook page. And then we have a couple of other ideas coming up, hopefully in the coming year. We talked with the Belltown Garden Club this week, and we're going to try to have a garden tour. So we're asking people to perhaps open up their private gardens for the public to see, and then maybe invite some of the community gardens to participate too. There's a couple of community gardens in town that might be willing to let us come and tromp around their area and look at their flowers. And at the same time, we're going to invite artists to come and do some plein air painting at each site. So that's in the works. We just started talking about it. The garden club was very interested and excited to think about this. So that's something that we're hoping to do that's new, because you get in this routine of doing the same thing over and over again each year, and it's not fresh and new. So this is something that we can try to do that's different. And then another thing is there's a lot of bells that were painted. There's one right out here that was painted by one of our own commission members, and there's bells all over town through this Rotary Club project. And we were thinking it'd be nice to do a tour, maybe have a little pamphlet that explains where they are, who did them, and what they mean, what the artist meant when they created the bell. So we're going to start off by posting them on our Facebook page, and then maybe create a tour around that. So these are things that we can do that don't cost a lot of money.
Sounds like you're doing a lot with 5 people.
Yeah, it's hard to do things when you don't have a lot of bodies to do them.
Are there any questions for Melissa? No.
Oh, good.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There we go. Segue in perfect with that last comment. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
For those that don't know me, I think I pretty much know everybody besides you two in the front here, but my name is Jeremy Hall. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director.
This is Deb Cunningham.
How are you?
Russell
Jeremy.
Boncorso.
Nice to meet you. So I normally get started and just tell you a little bit about both sides, the park side of it and the recreation side of it. And then I kind of go into budget talks and why I'm asking for what I'm asking, and kind of break it down for you guys. And then any questions from there, certainly willing to answer those as we move along. The park side of it. So for those that were on this board last year, I want to start by thanking you for approving that part-time parks maintainer position. Even though we really only had that full staff toward the end of the summer, this fiscal year, it did prove to be very valuable. And we finally got to a point when we were fully staffed in that month and a half before we lost our park maintainer one full-time position. The person that was in that position just went to another town. We were able to start to get to the situations of maintaining our fields, the areas that we have been struggling with. And I've been sitting here for the last 4 or 5 years telling you that we need that additional support. We started to finally get there this year. And it was a relief. It really was. If you go up to our high school fields in particular, and you look at those soccer fields, softball fields, the outfields in particular, they really are struggling right now. You'll get the dips that we struggle to keep up with. The budgets just to get a contractor out here was just too much. And my staff were just taxed to the point where we couldn't get out there. So I am relieved to say we finally got to a point where we could start doing that stuff. As long as we have a full staff, and it looks like we're going into the summer with a full staff. Again, hoping everything works out well, right? So we are excited to be able to finally, trim our infield skins, put down the topsoil in our fields to get a flat, safe playing surface for our kids at every school, every location. So we're getting there. This year, we also, with a lot of the help of Dave and Jeff, and I believe this committee had some to do with it, we pushed through a plan to rebuild the baseball field, the outfield for drainage purposes, the tennis courts and the track to resurface both of those this year. We're still really going strong with that this year. We're working hard to finish it. Hopefully by the end of May, everything will be complete and we'll be back up there using that, especially the tracks and the tennis courts will be resurfaced. So that project has been, for anybody that sat on this committee, you know, it's been one of those projects that has been in the works for 20 years. And we finally were able to find a unique and different way of approaching how we can pay for that funding. So, that was a really exciting moment for us to be able to get over that hump. So we're excited about that. The park side of it in the year ahead really is, we're moving forward with some plans. We came out with a needs analysis this past year, which we're finalizing and we'll be presenting to town council in May of this year at one of the town council meetings. It outlined a lot of what we hope we're going to be able to achieve in the upcoming years. Things like additional park space, things like dog parks and pickleball courts and things of that nature. But most importantly, it's being able to maintain what we already have. And a lot of the feedback came about that this year. So I want to be able to put that solid foot forward and say, we finally got a crew on board that are hard workers, because they are, and we can push through a positive, maintenance plan to eventually succeed and get the things that the residents of East Hampton want. So that is sort of the where our park maintainers are at right now. In addition to that, our Airline Trail Subcommittee has been working hard, and they recently pushed out a pamphlet that's a pocket-sized brochure that does go out to everybody in town. You can find them at all of our trailheads. Hopefully they're not running low, because they're almost like gold when you find them. People want to grab those and stick them in their pocket, carry them with them. We did some partnering with the EDC in the state of Connecticut. We've received a grant from them to be able to create this brochure that shows them along the trail where they can stop off at restaurants or the bike shop or along the way, what each, like the viaducts, what are they? Talks a little bit about them as well. So we're excited to be able to roll that out this year and continue to work with the EDC to kind of finalize some of our plans there for the future. Our Seamster Park playground, if you haven't been up there, we've added a new structure up there this year. A climbing 15-foot high tower for kids to climb. That was a big project that we raised all of our funds through our golf tournament, which does really well. We're in our 5th year of running that golf tournament. That golf tournament pays for everything from mulch, putting down mulch, or adding new play structures each year. So it doesn't even hit the general fund at all, which is great. We're going to continue doing that. And our Seamster Park Playground Committee has been doing a great job trying to spearhead those types of projects. So that's the sort of the snapshot and review of the last year and the park side of things. The recreation side of things has really coming out of the Delta variant of the COVID pandemic. We did superb last year. We produced so many programs, and I don't know how my staff did it. Because we're only made up of one full-time person and 2 part-time staff. So to be able to produce the amount of programs, and they were almost, I'd say 80% of our programs all last summer during our busiest time from March, April, May, June. We were 80% full on all of them all year long, and we had wait lists for a majority of them. A lot of that talks to the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, people wanting to be involved. But we were very excited to push out programs, and we saw a real need from it. And so did the state, because we received a state grant in the amount of $20,000 to be able to fund a program lead position for 8 weeks on a full-time basis. And again, that generated a lot of additional programs that we normally don't bring in. And then we have a part-time program lead position that currently is only working a couple hours a week, just because she does have a full-time job. But that seems to be successful as well. So with that push, we've done really well producing programs. But again, our needs analysis has indicated that a lot of people would like to see some diversity in programs that we offer. We do offer a lot to K-5 population. They're asking for a lot more. They want more toward the adult population, the seniors as well population. So we're trying to go that route. And in doing so, we're going to propose a plan this year to bring on a full-time employee that will not be funded out of this budget, but will be funded entirely out of our special revenue account. which we've worked so hard for many years to get ourselves to that point, where we can build that revenue account to show you, the Board of Finance, the town council, and yes, the town manager, that we can do this. We can get that account to a point where we can be self-sustaining, and we can produce more programming opportunities by hiring more staff that are more dedicated, and I won't say more dedicated part-time, but the turnover is not there. So we're excited to be able to offer that and put that out there this year as an opportunity to move forward to capitalize on some of the areas that we are really not producing that came out on the needs analysis. So that's the recreation side of it. This building has proven to be successful for our recreation programming as well, and able to add some programs downstairs. We took over the travel basketball program this year, which was a big endeavor and took up a lot of our time. Our commitment, it was a very big commitment, but it was successful in the grand scheme of things. So we're excited to keep moving forward. The recreation side of it and the park side of it are going to continue to grow. And we just hope we have your support as we move along, and I know we will. So it's exciting to be able to move into the future with a lot of great ideas and great aspirations. So with that, I'll just kind of turn my attention quickly to the budget. As you notice, I am presenting to you just over a 5% increase, 5.94%. This year is but if you look at it, the largest increase is the part-time seasonal salaries. And this is, unfortunately, our part-time seasonal salaries that come out of the town budget are non-program related. So they're your lifeguards, your gate attendants, your park maintainers, seasonal park maintainers. Those positions do get funded out of the general fund because it really isn't appropriate to try to fund them from a special revenue standpoint. You'll see the increase of $16,670. It's very conservative, to be honest with you. I do anticipate this would be a little bit higher, and I'm working with the town manager to bring this cost down. But what we're going to do, this is the biggest year. We've all known it's coming. The minimum wage increases over the 5 years has driven us to this point. This year, we're going to hit it twice in one fiscal year. So we're going to start out, the minimum wage will go up to $14 on July 1st this year. And then next year, June 1st, it goes up to $15. So you already have your minimum wage increases, but where it gets really tricky is you have staff that come back year after year. You can't really just start them at $14 or $15. You give them that 2%, that 3% increase to be above. So they're starting at that, and then they're getting the rate increase just to stay, relevant. That's sort of what you do. You don't ever start a person who's returning after 2 years at the same rate that you have somebody that's just starting out. So we've anticipated that and building it into our pay structure for this year. And that's why you see the increase that you're seeing here. And then the other increases, professional services being one of them, we have a $2,000 increase there. That really is just geared more toward, our engineering projects that we have that are in the pipeline. The Airline Trail project is coming up to try to hopefully finish that gap. Again, that's a $1.3 million project, and our engineer needs to design the scope of work for a boardwalk. So a lot of that will be funded from the professional tech services in the coming years. And then obviously any additional parks work that we do that needs engineering design, conceptual designs will come and be funded out of that. So we are asking for $12,000 in that budget this year to be able to fund that. Those are your two biggest increases year to date, I guess, going into next year, and where I see, kind of us landing in the general budget for next year. I'll just kind of open it up to any questions you guys might have.
We were told your engineering came out of Public Works.
Yeah, most of it does. So a lot of it does come from there. They're covering this time around. They are covering the Airline Trail project for the Eversource easement.
Mm-hmm.
But in the years to come, if they have big projects coming out of there for road work or whatever it may be, I can't rely on that. I have to have my own engineering or professional services budget, and that's where that comes from. Mm-hmm. And things such as parks designs, conceptual designs for the park that we'd love to be able to continue to develop up the Seamster Park playground area would come from something like this. So it's not as much as I'd love to be able to rely on that, and Dave has been great about working, with Matt on that. I don't know that that's something we can 100% commit to year after year. But I'll let Dave talk to that if he wants to.
Are there a large percentage of your people that were coming back for?
Yes. Yep. I'm hiring for 2 lifeguards because everybody else is returning. I'll be hiring, usually our biggest turnover is gate attendants. I'll probably be hiring for 8 gate attendants this year. And then my parks maintainers, one of them's coming back, and we're just recently in the process of hiring another seasonal maintainer right now.
Questions?
The turf maintenance equipment, the running hours, there's a substantial increase among most of the equipment, but the acres were the same. That's what accounts for the increase in the running hours of the equipment.
I don't know that the acreage did not really change. I mean, we did pick up the cranberry bog. We did probably 4 mowings on that. What happened is the groundsmaster, the Turtle groundsmaster was down for a couple months, actually not a couple months, couple weeks during the busiest time of the year. So we ended up using the skags to mow. So our skag numbers might be a little bit higher, but they're relatively the same across the board. They shouldn't be too much of an increase. Which one are you referring
About a
to?
10%, except for the Tiger.
The old one? One of our Tigers broke down again last
Yeah,
year.
that maintained about the same, but the other ones were roughly 10% increase.
Yeah, that's pretty much the norm over year after year, you mean? We get about 200 hours total. I don't have those numbers in front of me, unfortunately.
Page 113. I was just curious about the increased running hours, if it was the same amount of acreage.
Yeah, the acreage besides, the cranberry bog, the acreage was the same. However, the way we do mow, if we do have breakdowns on a machine, we might use an additional machine to offset that. If it's very wet conditions, we're not going to pull out the big groundsmaster. We'll use a skag. The Toro, we ended up using the Toro Pro quite a bit more this year because we did some infield work and we needed to make sure that it was groomed out a little bit more than the average once a week. So unless there's a game, then we usually do it multiple times a week. I mean, is there one that sticks out to you in particular that you wanted me to elaborate more on?
Jeremy, I think they've all gone up a bit, so why don't we look at that a little bit offline and we
Yeah,
can report back later.
okay.
I was just curious about the increases.
Yeah, I mean, that's the typical average. I mean, I didn't see anything that jumped out at me that wouldn't be, normal. Typical average for the year.
Okay, Ted?
Is there any projects going on with Sears Park and what have been completed like in the last year or so?
There's usually always a project going on there, but yeah, we do have some low impact development projects, some watershed projects going on there. We are anticipating redoing the tennis courts, the basketball asphalt court, and we're looking to add a pickleball court. So those projects are slated for this year if they get approved.
Is the boat launch done?
Boat launch, yes, the boat launch is done. The only thing they have to do is the apron that attaches to the boat launch to the parking lot. It's a small little, they're gonna pave that portion of it. That'll be done when the plants open back up, but you can use it now. They put some process in there for now.
Yeah.
So it is open for the public. Yeah, and then, I mean, just we do have some minor, upkeep that we do to the park, like the steps are gonna be replaced this year. The pavilion itself on the pavilion. So the pavilion usually requires some maintenance each year.
I heard that somebody wanted heat in the pavilion.
Yeah, that was proposed to the capital committee last year.
Yeah.
We were going to use it as an additional year-round facility for renting and to use it for programming. And it didn't go through. So we didn't propose it. We did find that the downstairs community room has been sufficient to meet the needs. I think it's a good opportunity to look into for future revenue source. We do a great job with pavilion rentals during our summer months. and it brings in some revenue. And it would be nice to be able to offer that all year round as additional revenue source for programming and rentals for whether it be weddings or birthday parties. It's not really great to have a kid's birthday party there in the middle of the winter, but baby showers are often a popular thing for that pavilion. So
The pavilion you're talking about, is that the building or is that the Lions project that's over?
no, that's the building with the 4 walls around it.
Okay. Do you get revenue from the Lions project that's over would be, well,
The
stream?
picnic shelter. No, that doesn't, that's a free, we take the rental application form, but it's free. It's first come, first served.
Very good. Who cleans that up? They have to clean it up and.
Yeah, we asked that they clean it to the point where it was when they came in, but we go in, my staff go in there at the end of every shift, the gate attendants and the park maintainers go
Okay.
in there and clean it, and the camp staff do it as well, so everybody kind of pitches in to help clean it throughout the summer.
So,
Anybody else? I didn't know you had a motorboat.
Me?
Yeah. Not personally. Parks and Rec.
I used to. We do, we have, we took the old police boat.
Uh-huh.
We use it to put the buoys in each year and
Mhm.
pull them out, although I found that I've been using it a lot more with the lake aeration system. And all
Oh, yeah.
that stuff, so we use it quite often. It's something we need, and it's not the greatest boat, but it does a job. It's a little small whaler boat, and it serves its purpose, so.
yeah, one more question.
And you have a dock for it too.
We do have a dock, yeah, we do.
Is that over on the north side?
Yeah, it's between the
Sears?
picnic shelter and the boat launch.
Are there other towns that bring their crew people to Openapaug still?
Yeah,
They do?
yeah, Glastonbury crew is there now, the high school. They're renting the facility they could be there till the end of April while the river level's high. So they go off the river. So once the river starts to drop, then they go back to their boathouse. And then Middletown rowing will also be coming in at starting this weekend. And then we get Wesleyan sailing in there as well.
We had a crew program at one time. It's a shame that it wasn't funded or there just wasn't a volunteer. I know there was a stipend for one of the teachers or so to run it. But I think it only lasted 2 years.
So that's being rekindled. So that's actually trying to be rekindled. We're in the process now of starting clinics, and we've got our own rowing equipment. We're looking to partner with Middletown on, and eventually, hopefully, take it
How was
over.
that funded?
So what's that?
The crew thing.
So it's funded through our department. So we end up taking the brunt of it. Yeah. So it's a partnership between Middletown. So they have some old boats that they've been willing to give us. So we're going to be using those this summer. And we have 2 volunteers, one from the Glastonbury crew team. He's been there forever. He's an attorney out of Glastonbury. He's going to volunteer to run the clinic for us. And a resident of town. She's just an avid rower. So those 2 are going to run clinics for us this summer. And hopefully there's 2 parents that are trying to kind of re-engage some of the community parents to restart the crew team at the high school. And if that'd be great, because then we can facilitate our programs and feed them.
We had a meet there, I don't know, what was 5-6 years ago, and there was probably 8 to 10 high schools.
Yeah,
And
it filled up.
Openapaug is perfect.
It was.
There's no stumps floating around like on the river, and it's a safe.
Yeah, we've actually found over the
Bodies
over the course of the couple of years, everybody seems to be wanting to come here because we're the middle of everything, and if they can't get on the river, they want to come here and grow. And it's nice to see them out there. It really is.
It is.
It's a pretty sight, and people enjoy it. It kind of gets us excited. We almost started it 2 years ago, and then the lake shut down because of the algae blooms. Because we tried to do it in August, which is silly of me to try. So we're going to move ahead with the program this year, and hopefully it's awesome. Yep. All right, so cool.
Is there anything we should talk about capital? Parks and Rec?
Certainly can. We got 3 items on there that, or excuse me, 4 items on there that I'm looking at. I don't think it changed, Dave, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have the airline trail. We're looking to, save some money for, in case we need a match contribution. I've been kind of told either way, we're not going to be obligated for that, but you never know. So we've got 15,000 in there for that, for a match contribution going into next year.
Some of that will get used for the project that's underway, excuse me, that's about to get underway.
And then 55,000 for the pickleball courts at Sears Park. That's an estimate to, again, come in and reconstruct the whole area where the skate park used to be to build a pickleball court. And then the basketball court reconstruction at Sears Park, that asphalt is to the point where it's survived enough. And we need to replace the asphalt and reline that court. And then the other one was for a 2-phased approach for the tennis court crack repairs at, and that's again a full project to redo those courts, those 2 courts at.
Yeah, that was not in here for this year.
They moved a few items out, they meaning the capital committee, moved a couple of items out a few years on that with the tennis courts and whatnot.
So I have an old version.
Yeah, so right now, it's the, right now, it's sitting at the pickleball and the basketball courts. They pushed the tennis court stuff out to next year. Jeremy, and then also Jeremy oversees, if you look farther down, you'll see the watershed projects. There's funding, another $50,000 in for watershed projects to make funds available for that. Although lately he's been very fortunate in getting funding by grant dollars to cover most of that activity.
We will see a reduction on that line this year once that grant is approved and we start the project this summer. That overall budget in there will take a reduction. We have about 4 projects that were earmarked that are going to be coming out of capital funding for locations.
Where is the 55,000 for watershed
It's
project?
at the very bottom.
So that actually shows up in the public works section.
Where?
It's about just under halfway down that group. It says water quality infrastructure improvements.
Okay, all right.
50,000 and it's accumulating. So there's about 230, I think.
I see.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is today, but 230 some odd thousand in that fund that gets used. And as Jeremy's saying, I think some of it's getting used this summer.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Karen?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
What was it tomorrow?
Well, Lake Commission tomorrow.
Oh, Lake Commission.
You're talking about the Florida.
Oh, I'm talking about Parks and
I'll
Rec.
see you next week. After I see you tomorrow. All right.
Thank you.
The only thing left on the list tonight is the library, the public library.
Yeah.
And I will make a couple of comments on this budget, which is on 120. 120, 121, it starts, and the numbers are on 122.
Right.
So as you know, the library is coming out of some pretty fantastic years. We did great work during the pandemic, created a lot of wonderful programming, a lot of activities so that the community could continue to use the library, change the way we did business there pretty quickly. Coming out of course, the 100,000 circulation year that ended in July of 21, well, certainly we haven't been able to maintain that level because a lot of that circulation was driven around the big Candyland event and the programs associated with it. But the staff has continued to march forward and continue to do programming with that focus created out of their strategic plan. Of course, you know that Ellen Paul, our director, left us at the end of November. She went to the Connecticut Library Consortium. We're fortunate to have been through a really successful, I think, director search program. Assuming everything worked out today with the rest of his background review and his his medical exam. We should be able to announce a new director here in the next couple of days that I think will be starting at the end of April. So looking forward to that coming along. In terms of the budget itself, primarily status quo around, as I said, however, driving programming forward and the staff increases related to that. The other item, I shouldn't say staff increases, the salary increases are related to that. Staffing is status quo. The other item that's a big jump in here is for digital media. That's been one of the areas of circulation that has grown quite a bit in starting into the pandemic and has continued after the pandemic. While circulation of books has remained, physical materials, I shouldn't say books, physical materials has remained relatively flat through the pandemic and beyond. Digital media services or digital media requests really jumped up significantly. They have been running anywhere from 10 to 20% higher every month in the time since the pandemic and even going into that. So since 2019, we're consistently, as I said, 10, 15, 20% higher each month on digital circulation. So that's where that.
Like the Libby and.
Yep.
Those.
Right, it's Hoopla. It's the biggest one there is Hoopla. And then you've got, various things that come along with that and, Overdrive and those sorts of things. It also includes that digital media services, also includes the various programs that our patrons can take advantage of at no cost in the library, Ancestry, and those sorts of educational and personal research type services as well that they can take advantage of. So those are the main drivers there with.
So did the cost go up or just the demand?
So it's a little bit of both, but primarily it's demand. Digital media, much like physical media, we have to buy copies. And so just to make sure that we have enough copies available, an appropriate level of copies available so that folks can use them. We also benefit from the Lion system in that regard because the Lion system does acquire some of those as well and make those available and coordinates that activity.
Books and periodicals always floored me. Because comes out to what, $1,170 a month, a week. And is that actually purchases of the books?
Of materials, it is. Certainly we have.
Where do they find the shelf room for it?
Well, that's the thing about libraries. A lot of it is rotation. That is, titles come off that no longer are getting circulated, the process of weeding. There also is just wear and tear, on books and books that just wear out and have to go off the shelf and get replaced. So that's another big chunk of it. Initially, when a book comes out, for example, there are aspects of this activity that are, I'll refer to it as automated, where we have an automatic standing with the publishers that when the, John Patterson produces a book, we get whatever number of copies automatically as soon as it's in print, because we know that as a new book, that's going to go out the door and we might get 8 copies of that right off the bat. The other thing that is intriguing, has always been intriguing to me about this, is that we don't get any deals. As libraries, we don't get any deals.
I used to think that you don't buy them at the airport.
Right, but it feels like we buy them at the airport because we don't get any deals. We don't get any special pricing. We pay what everybody else pays, so to speak, to acquire the copies, except we're buying 10, 15 copies of books sometimes to have them on the shelf and make them available. And as some of those wear out, they just go away because they're just worn out. And we keep the best of the copies for the future circulations, because eventually it's not on the bestseller list anymore, and it's now 5 years old, and we only need 2 copies of it.
Hmm.
So it's a constant rotation. One of the things that when I was talking with Ellen prior to her departure, one of the things that we really did well in her tenure here was to get the right number of books on the shelf and the right books on the shelf. We did a lot of weeding over the last 4 or 5 years to thin down the collection and get rid of things that never left the building, but were just taking up space. And what that allowed us to do was enliven, I'll call it, the way we displayed books so that people could see them and be engaged with them. And so I think that is part of what has led us to getting into the circulations that are in the 80 to 100,000 a year. I think that's what's really going on.
Thank you.
So status quo on budget in terms of people, it's still the 4 full-time employees, and then the smattering 9 or 10 part-time people that make that place run 60 hours a week or so.
Any questions?
Okay.
Does that conclude our? So we're gonna, we'll hear, let's see, we'll hear from Human Services, you said Saturday?
Yeah, right.
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.